because people are so easy and cool. Okay, so now we are moving back to Spain, to the region of La Sagra. Does this story sound familiar? Four brothers. Four brothers decide, to start a brewery. And the idea of that brewery would be to make beers that had a flavor, a Castilian flavor, a flavor of that part of Spain. And so this beer is called Sagra Bohio. It's an imperial stout with some smoke characteristics.
I like it.
And here you have to love it. The head brewer's name is in fact Bob Maltman. Where did he brew? In California and then in Mexico. So got around. And this actually came out of a collaboration. This particular beer came out of a collaboration which was in connection with a Spanish television show called MasterChef. And they were looking to make a beer specifically designed to accompany food, and particularly dessert.
I like it.
So the Castilian flavor in beer, they're saying, is for things that are full-bodied, that are fruity, that are round, that are soft, not necessarily overwhelming. And in a way, this reminds me, in its balance, of some of the big, fleshy Spanish, red wines, and you can almost see the thought process, of the construction, of a beer like this. A very fine balance between sweetness and bitterness, really just enough bitterness to hold the sweetness in check. But I think what's nice about that is that yes, this would be a very nice beer with a dessert, but it's just its balance is just right so that you could also carry it off with a lot of savory dishes. So last night I actually cooked dinner for 400 people. No, that is not a joke. Actually did. We were doing lamb kebabs at a big barbecue in Brooklyn with spices. I could definitely see doing this beer with it, or with some of the more traditional Mexican Oaxacan mole negro sauces, which traditionally would have been actually used on turkey. In this country, you see it mostly on chicken, and I like it even more on duck. And you have duck with mole sauce. You could go in this direction. Thinking back to Brazil, it would also be very good with feijoada. And I'm sure, certainly it's very easy to see how good it would be with some of the great Spanish hams. So 10.5%, kind of an imperial stout, but with some smoked malts used as well. What I like about it is that it focuses most of its complexities right in the center of the palate. It starts off with some sweetness, and then just when you kind of expect that it's going to go really big, it actually becomes very elegant, through the middle. And just enough sweetness, there, on a knife edge. It'd be interesting to me to try cooking any number of things, with this that you might not even expect. I could see this going really well, for example, with roasted red peppers. Where you bring a lot of sweetness out, but you also have a char, at the same time. Together, say, with some goat cheese. Now, you wouldn't think of a dark beer, being served with something like that. But if you put those flavors together in your head, you might find that you kind of like that combination. But just as easily, it can end up going with a chocolate cake, or with a cheesecake or the end. And of course, it would be very good, and I hope that they would not be, at all upset to hear this, with a big scoop of vanilla ice cream in it. I do that with my own beers, so I'm allowed to say that. I'm really quite tempted to drink this entire bottle. I'm now remembering. No, I remember, I went out with with Jessica and we were tasting these beers, I kind of remember now. That's right, I'm pouring a whole one for myself. Did you notice that I'm the daddy? I'm the one with the microphone. Okay, that's where it goes. So no, it is Moorish actually. And I think that is the trick of it. It's it has more sweetness than you think you would want, but then you seem to want it. So I mean that's and that's always the trick, isn't it? It's to build a character into a beer that has its own thing, its own character. This does not taste to me like lots of other beers that I've had. Which I think is very cool. And it's not that easy in the center of a beer with this much sweetness to avoid astringency, when you're using dark malts. Those of you who are, who make your own beers at home, you can easily see, if you've brewed a lot of dark beers, how a beer like this could tip over, in the wrong direction. And to have aimed at this precisely, I think is a cool thing.
What's he saying? I have no idea, but he's a baby.
I love the part where I just kind of lose track of things. No, I know what's going on, and I know where I am, and that's all fine. I know what's coming up. I know we've already had. But I just sort of disappeared into the beer and just said, well, I'm going to be here with this beer for a couple of minutes, and you guys take care of yourselves. Well, I think brewers don't taste beers, like other people. And this is good and bad. You don't turn off that little part of your brain. You try a lot of the times. And, I will admit, there are times I'll go out on Saturday night and I'll go to a bar and they're serving a bunch of beers, including some of my beer, and I decide to have somebody else's beer. And people do recognize me, so they're saying, how come you're ordering whatever? You're not getting the Brooklyn. It's like, it's Saturday night, and if there's anything wrong with that beer, I will be inconsolable. And that's what happens. Like, you start tasting your own beer on a Saturday night, and you're out with friends, like the dark, something's even slightly wrong, the dark cloud comes over your head. 15 minutes later, you're down in the basement, of the bar, trying to figure out their draft system, and what the hell did they do to my beer? Packaging people, and then, it's like, you come back up out of the basement later and people are trying to talk to you and you're like, for the whole evening. You just can't drink beer, like other people. I used to be a filmmaker, and it's the same way with films, believe me. I'm sure it's the same way with anything. Other people are watching the movie and I'm like, where is the camera? And why does that guy have that weird light underneath his chin? Where is that supposed to be coming from? But if it's done well, you definitely appreciate it, so that's cool. I am looking forward to the day. I think it will not be very long from now, when we